Whoa.
All right.
Hello, hello.
This is the unofficial Shane and Ian podcast, no name in discovery phase of what that looks like.
I'm Ian. This is Shane.
Yep. Ian Guthrie and Shane Kipper. Today we're talking about personal power. I feel like we've both been on a journey of discovering our personal power. And really figuring out what that actually means. I think, at a surface level, it can seem almost woo-woo, like too good to be true even, or that, even only certain people can have that. Maybe like idols that we're looking up to, other people in our lives that we see the personal power in. And sometimes it can be like, I don't have that, and even just that thought alone, I think prevents us from obtaining it. So I think we're going to talk a little bit about personal power and, how we've gone about discovering that, embracing it, what it kind of means, and how, maybe some of the things that we've used in order to acquire that power. I think it's an ever growing, ever expanding thing. It's not necessarily that like, oh, I've got the power now and I don't need to continue to cultivate it. Because I think I'm just now discovering that for myself.
Well, and I think too, also uncovering why it is that we've been hiding that personal power. I've heard from many people before that before they kind of stepped on into this journey, they would realize that, from a young age that they were shut down, that they felt like they needed to make themselves smaller to make other people more comfortable, or that they felt that sharing, what really drives them isn't really acceptable, just sometimes a lot of energy is really hard for some people to take, but that's really because they feel like they can't express that either. So I feel like the more we step into that authentic versions of ourselves, that's opening the pathway for other people to step into that. If you see somebody being in joy and for some reason you're bothered by that, to be able to question, why would I be upset that somebody's experiencing joy if I wasn't just blocking myself off from joy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I wish I had asked those questions sooner, and maybe I was at a subconscious level, or just, I think naturally, and probably part of our makeup or DNA or whatever is to, question those things and continue to evolve. Whether or not it seems like we're evolving in that direction or not, I feel like it just is a matter of life almost. It might be incremental in that kind of scenario, but I think regardless, you're still moving in that direction, because when you're offended, or when by those kind of things, other people stepping into their power and really being authentic and showing who they truly are, and being offended by that, it makes you question yourself, whether you want to or not, and whether you're aware of the fact that you're questioning yourself or not. And so as you go about your day and start seeing more and more of that, then I think, you start to look at, those are the things that I want for myself in my life. And I mean, that's, I think, how I've gotten to this place of power for myself is, seeing the authentic version of yourself, which, I mean, not version, I mean, I guess we have multiple versions, but that authentic self from you, and then, from other people that I've surrounded myself with and that we've surrounded ourselves with in our community. It's almost infectious when you start to really commit to those ways of living, just certain practices that we do for ourselves, or stepping out of our comfort zones and facing fear, um, in uncomfortable situations. One of the big examples of that is the other day we went down to the what's called Swan Falls, and we did some drumming and swam in the river and had some Indian child vibes. It was real nice. It was good. It was like back to the source almost, Um, but we were in that drumming, I'm like trying to work on my drumming skills and get to the point where I can actually facilitate drum circles. And part of that is stepping out of the fear of being in front of people and guiding people and, even dancing or talking out loud while people are playing or singing or whatever. And I got the experience with Ian here to, number one, look each other in the eyes and sing and like just go for it, and it was kind of a realization for me that it wasn't like scary. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it was really kind of a beautiful moment. Just like we're just like drumming, and then you're like, you see each other in the eyes, and then it's just like you can both tell there's a little bit of this like not uncomfortableness, but it's just like, "Ah, I'm here now. What am I? Like a like shaky, but it's like, but you're just like, you're there with that person, and you're not judging the other person. Like you're really just judging yourself constantly.
Hmm.
But then it's just like looking at the other person, you're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like come out and play. I'm here playing with you. And that I think that was a lot of fun. Like just and it's interesting because like people don't think of that as being maybe vulnerable, but at the same time, like people forget to play. People don't play very often, and I think
Hmm.
we've been playing a lot lately. And I think that's really I look at things differently now. Like
Hmm.
I took a like after we left the park yesterday, I took a drive, and I was just like, I'm not gonna go straight home, and I'm just like driving up these country roads, and I'm looking, and I'm like doing the speed limit when normally I'm going at 5 over or something, but I'm just like taking my time, listening to music, the wind's blowing through my hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, like and I'm stopping to smell the roses or any flower really. Um, and people are smiling. I'm saying hi to people. It's really just, you know, I feel this momentum building of opening up, realizing that like I've been shutting myself off from that presence of love and things like that. But the more that like I'm accepting myself, the more I'm seeing it and I'm accepting other people.
Hmm. Yeah, like the shutting off of that love or that authenticity, which I think they're one and the same,
Right.
right? That shutting off is out of fear, and like you were saying, uh, even when we were singing to each other, I'm like, is this weird? Should I not be doing this? Like, am I being made fun of in his mind, or like, what's my mouth look like when it's moving while I'm singing?
Yeah.
But then, like every single time that I um, do it anyway, like just it gets easier. And then I realize like it doesn't even matter if you're judging me because I'm having fun, I'm evolving myself, and each time I'm doing that, like I have even more courage to um, chase I don't want to say chase, um, move towards the things that I want in my life, which for myself is to be a leader, to guide people, to mostly just be someone that other people can you know have faith in and follow if they want to. I'm not like I don't know. Anyway,
I feel like
um,
you're already doing that.
yeah, and in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm moving in that direction. Um, but without dancing in front of people, singing in front of people, speaking on stage, or I mean, I'm not doing a lot of that yet, but um, it's almost like becoming a game, like a fun thing. It's like if I feel the feeling of this fear that someone's judging me in the crowd, or my dance moves aren't cool, or my singing is shitty or whatever, um, and then when I do it, it's like it's almost, you know, like a game. I'm just like having fun with it now.
Mm. Yeah, well, it reminds me of Jackie's talk last week about being vulnerable, and it, because a lot of people feel like vulnerable. I mean, there's lots of forms of vulnerability, but showing, you know, where you're struggling and things like that. But a lot of people I've been finding or have a hard time showing pure positive emotion, like pure joy, laughter, pleasure, things like that. And I've been having conversations recently about people and noticing that, like, when some people, depending on what kind of groups of people they're around, if they like burst out laughing, they'll cover their face. Or I was having a conversation with a friend the other day about, um, well, it was about sex, but like it was in the context of, like, you know, doing it in a room with people in it, which she hasn't done. But she made the comment about, like, maybe I worry about what my face looks like or how I'm sounding, you know. And if you think about that base, because, like, sex and pleasure is really like a part of us, you know, and it's so hidden and locked away, and it's just like, and pleasure isn't sex, and, you know, they're not, you know, they go together, but you can have pleasure eating food, you know. Like, why can't you have this excitement about everything that you're doing, you know? It's like, you know, if you sat in a restaurant and you were just like enjoying your food, like, why would that be weird, you know? But it almost seems like people go out to eat almost as business. Like, I'm just eating to get it out of the way, and I'm here with, having a conversation with this person, but the food is just a side note or whatever. But it's just like, you could be enjoying that person, you could be enjoying that food, your conversation, you know, be in love with life. You know, it's not directed to one thing individually. It's directed to all things.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I feel like I've lost pleasure in because of, you know, what other people think of me by not standing in my power. And even, you know, I'm picking up the drums right now, and I could let that go to the wayside, which I think is what most, you know, people do, especially when it comes to music or really anything that they want to, you know, learn as a skill. Um, the fear of what other people think, it's like, oh well, you know, so and so is not gonna, they don't think I can do that, so I might as well just put it to the side and try something else. And then there's all these things that we want to try and never end up putting any effort into. I had a recent experience actually with my dad, where, you know, he's very very hardworking, is moving quickly up the ladder in the company that he works for, but he's from, you know, a different generation where it's all about the hard work and moving up the career ladder and getting an education and buying a home and, you know, 401ks and, you know, the old paradigm, which is one that I don't necessarily subscribe to anymore, which, you know, to each his own. But like, because of that, he's unable to see any sort of vision that I might have, which is okay too. You know, I'm like not condemning him for the fact that he can't see my vision because it's mine. But recently he had said that I need to find a plan B, and that, you know, that what like, I'm trying to do a get rich quick scheme, and I have a marketing business, and I've been doing this for 7 years. So it's not necessarily a get quick scheme, because I mean, I'm not rich yet. I mean, there's a lot of riches in my life. But, you know, just that saying from somebody that I care a lot about and have, you know, a lot of importance in what they think of me, you know, probably more than I should. that could totally derail me. And even the drums, I brought it up that I wanted to do drum circle facilitations, and most people that I bring that up to is like, is there any money in that? It's like, are you kidding me? Like, is that all you are worried about? And most people are,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But like, I see that path for myself. And thankfully, over the last couple months, especially, I've been able to step into that power through plant medicines, through, and getting involved in my community, volunteering for everything that I can. And, really stepping into that power so I can be the light for other people. Those kind of words and, I guess affirmations don't penetrate anymore. Maybe at a level which maybe I need some time with, but um, you know, I think that's just it. Like our vision is personal to ourselves, and so we need to go after that regardless of what other people see, because they have their vision and their beliefs and everything else that guides them where they're going.
Yeah, plan plan B just always reminds me of split energy, and I'm not saying to like not take care of yourself or be prepared, but at the same time, like if you're gonna have to like split your energy off into a plan B, then you're already setting up your plan A to be failing.
Oh yeah,
You know,
100%.
I mean, law of attraction teaches that all the time. Just like if you have a split energy about something, like it's basically it could go either way. You're just like, here, universe, yeah, I give you two choices, and
Mm-hmm.
and if you've already like set up the one to fail and the other one's your safe one, you might energetically you might just lean towards safety.
Yeah, yeah, because it's plan B is always the most comfortable. It's like I could go get a job probably anywhere that I want. I mean, I would probably go get a sales job. I'm not going to, because I'm confident and have faith in myself. And I have for fucking 7 years, like it's been an up and down roller coaster of, oh, I'm gonna have to get a job. Oh, I'm really successful, and so there's things that I'm learning in that process. But um,
Well, and I find too, if I don't know if you find this too, but now that you're drumming more, that my business, when I'm doing things that I enjoy outside of what I do professionally, my professional business does better. Like I
mhm,
have more joy while I'm doing it.
mhm,
Because I'm feeling more myself when I'm at play doing the drums, singing, uh, going out to the park, like doing all these different activities that maybe I've pushed aside because I need to focus on my business. But at the
mhm.
same time, like focusing on my business, I'm almost always looking at the negative aspects of it. Like, what do I need to do to fix where I'm at? Then I start to drown and blah, 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 blah. But then it's just like this momentum of joy, like just allowing joy to flow through you and be there. And then it's all of a sudden like appointments are coming in and, and it's like you don't correlate the two together, but they're really one and the same. Like
Mhm.
I do better financially when I take time to play and have joy.
Mm. 100%. Yeah, I mean, even if the business, isn't necessarily taking off and I'm still enjoying the rest of my life,
Mm.
I'm like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
As long as I can make my ends meet and some, and have fun while I'm doing it, that's really what I want. Obviously, I can have my cake and eat it too. We can have our cake and eat it too. Um, but like, you know, just like with my dad, his thing was like, um, basically, he's making a lot more money for himself, but he also works a lot. And so his philosophy was like, basically that he has enough money to do what he wants, but he's not like super. I don't know. I don't know how he feels about his position, but the thought of happiness over money is like not necessarily something that has been really in his field of comprehension maybe, and so, and that was even a lesson for me. Like that is really what I want, is to be a part of a thriving community and be happy and do what I want and learn skills. And um, so I guess that's where your own vision comes into play, and just going for that regardless. um, I've been hearing, I don't know about more and more, but, and I'm sure you probably heard it, that you don't want to tell people your goals, right? Because they're, especially some of the people that are like closest to you, because they're going to tell you all the reasons why it won't work, or how they tried something, they tried a business and it didn't work out. I hate that, because it's like, you clearly quit, and that's the difference. So yeah, I don't know. So like, what is like your like personal power look like for you? Like,
You're asking me?
yeah. And you, I mean, you could take a moment and write it down if you'd like.
Take a moment of silence. That's right. Personal power, what does it look like to me? For me, I would say personal power feels and looks like really just being in joy. I mean, to me, success is joy. Like you could you could be successful, potentially successful out of a business, being wealthy, like you said, like your dad working all the time. Like, is he sacrificing joy for these things? Do these things actually bring you joy? Like, I don't know that I could, if I would need anything else in my life if I was missing joy, because like when you're depressed, you don't even want the things you have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like another, if I was wealthy and buying multiple cars and I wasn't happy, like it might give me some joy to buy a car in that moment, and then it's very fleetingly gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's I've lived that, I feel like, many times. Like I was saying, sometimes it fluctuates where I'm like, uh-oh, it's job time, or wow, I'm kicking ass. Last year I had my first six-figure year, and but I was drinking, or wait, no, not last year, but I was still doing drugs. I was spending a lot of time alone in my cave, I would call it, which is my office, and not get outside, not go do anything fun. But I would buy things. I'd buy stuff for people, because that's kind of what I feel like might be one of my love languages, the way that I speak it, or show it. Um, and I was just, it's never really enough, because I'm always trying to buy something else to make someone happy, or buy something for myself to make myself happy. Just because I had made six figures last year didn't necessarily mean I was happier than I am now. I right now I'm happier than when I made six figures and I had more than enough money to go do whatever I wanted. Um, which I think you can have both, but I just wasn't in my power. I think I was just going through the motions of being who I wanted other people to see me as. And so it was kind of the fake it until you make it kind of scenario. And because I was faking it, I knew I wasn't happy. I'm like imposter, like, and more and more come to that realization that I haven't been authentic with the people that are in my life. But since that realization and really like going deep and discovering what that is, um, I've had the conversations with those people like, hey, this isn't really me. This is who I am. And you're going to start seeing more of that. And that's exactly what's been happening.
Well, that's a beautiful story too, because, and that's the exact, that's it, because you weren't in your power because you were giving your power to this image. You were giving it
Mm-hmm.
to money. You were giving it to what people thought about you, maybe how you dressed, or
Mm-hmm.
how you presented yourself. And it's just, and it's just like, it might have looked good on the outside, but is that who you like? Is that the most authentic thing? And if that's all taken away, are you gone?
Mm-hmm.
Are you're no longer there? You know? And I've been working with that in myself too, just like, that money doesn't have power over me. Um, my clothes, the way I look, and people, like, sometimes I feel like, um, when I'm around certain people, like, oh, I feel really good, but then, like, in my mind will start, like, I'll catch my mind trying to attach, like, almost like a figure or a character. Like, you could say, like, in your story, like, your dad could have been like an authority,
Mm-hmm.
and so then that's moving your power to your dad to dictate your life.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, if I, like, if you were the authority, because, like, we go to the gym, and so, like, though, yeah, I do think of you as an authority because you know more about the gym than I do. But if I gave that to you, like I wouldn't be anything without you, or something like that, then I would be losing myself to that.
Yeah, and then as soon as I don't go to the gym, you don't go to the gym, and
Yeah.
then it's over.
Right.
Because it wasn't necessarily probably even about you, especially, if you're looking at me as like, he has the keys and I just got to follow. Then it's more about me, like kind of almost maybe in a way impressing me, or like, showing who you want me to see, as opposed to you being there for yourself and, taking in that information, knowing that you're going to go do it on your own later. Um, and with you were saying that, with like the money that I had made, had I lost it all at that time in my life, I probably like would have lost myself in addiction at that point, because I've battled with addiction for a long period of time. I mean, probably sugar was the very first one, and then it evolved into, alcohol and porn, and then weed, and I've gotten into some other harder stuff too in my life, because I wasn't happy. I was inauthentic. I was, trying to cover that up. So at that time in my life, I was doing drugs. So I wouldn't have money, but I'd still have drugs. Maybe not be able to buy them, but I would find other things that would fill the hole that I was, trying to fill with substances. And I was fucking worried about that all the time, even. I'm like, on this very fragile ground of being a complete like addict, where I just ruined my life, and barely keeping it up because there's money and clients involved that I have to fulfill. Um, and thankfully, there are those cycles, because it brought me back to the reality of that inauthenticity. And even more, I'm like discovering, like, I don't know that I really want to do what I do. I have a marketing business. I do fulfillment, and so, like, I'm just not like super happy about that. But now I have a vision for other things that are starting to really come into my life, and without that drop, I'd still be making a bunch of money and doing a bunch of drugs. you know. And
Which
so
sounds like the American dream.
I think that's probably what the government is saying is the American dream or pushing. But yeah, and I mean, I had another experience when I was in San Diego where I got hooked up with the wrong crowd, got involved in some cocaine, um, and had an experience where I had to come back home, which was, I had this presence online. Oh, I'm in San Diego now. Look at me. I'm living my life, and then a year later, I'm back home in Boise. Um, but it was the move I needed to make. So um, I think that's part of the discovery of the power. Um, it's like a light switch. Like you turn on the power and there it is, but it can also be turned off. And that's the contrast between when it's on and when it's off. Um,
Yeah. It comes with a lot of self-inquiry, I believe, that like when you're in sadness or depression, and I feel really like a lot of people don't realize that they are depressed a lot of the times. Like I was depressed for quite a while. Um, Luckily I've been moving through it and realizing that I was just like low grade depressed, even though like I'd have moments of happiness, but then realizing like, if I'm not in complete joy, then technically I'm depressed, you
mm,
know, because joy is our natural state. And people feel like, oh, well, it's natural to be depressed. It's not actually natural to be depressed.
mm,
And just to like find out what that is. I like how Jim Carrey said, when you're depressed, it means that you're in need of deep rest because you're tired of playing the character that you're playing.
mhm,
and and it's true. Uh, but whenever we're sad or depressed, we have this belief that we're lacking something, and so like whether ultimately like that's the separation from feeling that God presence, that love, that spirit within ourselves, but then we try to fill it with other things like money, sex, food, drugs, people, um, but none of those things can actually bring us joy or make us joyful. They can bring joy to us when we're in joy, but we also have to cultivate that and and settle into that. Like, what do I feel like I'm really lacking in this moment?
mm,
And and truly understand that we are already filled and feel into that space. Like, oh, like wherever we're holding ourselves tightly in our body to like give space to that pain and and to really love it and show up for ourselves, and that too is coming into your power because you're holding on to a false identity and you're making space for that false identity and you're loving it because you're remembering who you are. Like you are that energy, that essence, that beauty that's showing up as these people. And and then and then that leads into uh, fear and anger. And it's like anger is usually because you feel blocked by something that you want, but then like coming back into to release that, coming back into the realization that nothing can give you that sense of joy. So that's more of cultivating that. And then the fear is um what is fear? What is fear to you?
um, I think it's like the knowing that something. I mean, there's many different versions of fear. Like if a bear is attacking you, that's not a bad type of fear. Or like an example, like maybe speaking on stage, knowing that that's the direction you want to go in your life, but the fear is kind of like an ally almost. I had this. I went to Flaming Gorge, Utah, uh, last summer, and we were jumping off some really big cliffs, and standing up there on the top, it's like, and I almost created like this formula out of it. I had like this post on social media about it, but I'm stepping. It's like you get to the top of the rock, and you want to jump off. You've already decided before you even get up on the cliff that, yeah, that's what I want to go do. That looks fun. I'm sure I would get a lot of enjoyment out of that. And as soon as you start climbing up onto the rock, you're thinking of all the ways that something might go wrong. Maybe there's a rock at the bottom that you might hit, or maybe there's some piranhas in the water. I'm just kidding. But then you get to the top of the rock where you're about to jump, and then it comes in even more. But until it's almost like you have to just, because you've decided like, yeah, I want to go jump off that rock, you have to walk right up to the rock and jump without like giving it time, planning it out, because the longer that you're up there on that rock contemplating, the less likely you are to jump off of the rock and enjoy what's about to happen. And then after you make that first jump, it's like, oh, that was like fucking awesome. I'm gonna go do it again and again and again, and it gets easier and easier, and then you're doing backflips off it, and like, so, and I think that's kind of the same for anything that we really want to do, like speaking on stage. It's like, I want to do that, but on my way to the stage, I'm thinking of like all the people, or how I might mess up, or then I get there and then I stop breathing because, oh my God, it's here, and then now I'm even thinking about it even more. But to just go up there and start, that's all that really requires, because, and if you're not really thinking about it, I think it's the thinking part that messes you up. It's like, oh, I'm going to mess up. Well, there you go. That's your affirmation of how your presentation is going to go.
Yeah, fear is that you don't have control. And that just, all those really just go back to like, we've forgotten who we are. And so, what is there to actually be afraid of? And realize that like, we're not living, we're being lived, and love is our essence. And so love is what moves through us. Love is being us. And so it's like, if you can bring that presence, into those situations, the fear might be there, you're aware of it, but you also know that you're held, you have this, and if you messed up, it doesn't make any difference. You're still you're still who you are, that holy spirit.
Yeah, and I mean, like we had talked in the beginning too, it's like when you're showing up authentically and facing fears or whatever like that, you're also inspiring other people. So it's not even so much that you might look like a dumbass or whatever that's going through your mind if you mess up. It's like people see that and they're like, damn, I want that for my life too. And they're not necessarily even judging you. Just the fact that you got up on stage, just the fact that you made an attempt to face that fear is enough to inspire somebody to think differently and maybe attack some of the things that they want for their life. Man, I had something there.
And see, and this is the authenticity. We do this uncandid,
yeah,
and unedited. So our mistakes are on purpose.
yeah. Yeah. What was I just talking about though?
Authenticity?
Yeah, the story I told.
About going up on stage.
Yeah. Kind of like with inspiring other people. I don't know. Fear.
Yeah. Fear is, I mean, that's kind of like a full basket of lower vibrational emotions. Um, you know, all that can be wrapped up in fear. In the Course in Miracles, they basically say there's two thought systems: there's love and there's fear, or love or the lack of love, because ultimately fear doesn't actually exist. But it sure feels like it at the time. So we're not denying our human experiences. You know, I like in this, I was reading in The Way of Mastery. It's supposed to be Jesus speaking to you, and so it's like, I'm here to meet you where you're at so you can join me, you know, like, because I am who you are. You know, we're not any different. There's not a um you know, it's not the Jesus isn't the exception, he's just the example. And really, when we step into that oneness of, we're not really talking to something outside of ourselves. Even when we're having this conversation, I'm not really talking to a somebody who's separate from myself. I'm speaking to myself, and it's helping me better understand that self. And uh, and so when I come into my authenticity, I'm meeting myself where I am. And so admitting if I'm afraid of something, or admitting that I am struggling, or that I need help, or whatever it is. And I and it's through that vulnerability that our authenticity really shines through, because you know, this is our realities, and they're joined. Like, whatever I'm going through, there's many people who are also going through the exact same thing. You know, we're all awakening together, you know, and when one mind heals, all minds are healed.
Yeah. You there's so if you follow Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks about, you know, essentially we have a thought, the thought creates an emotion, the emotion creates the chemical in the body, which then produces a reaction. I don't know if it's emotion, chemical, or chemical then emotion, but either way, I'm pretty sure it's emotion then chemical, because if you're in fear, you're producing cortisol, you're producing, you know, kind of that fight or flight response. And so with that kind of knowledge, you know, if we're constantly in that state of fear and not pushing past it and realizing that the fear came from a thought and that we can redirect that thought, then our body's continuously producing those chemicals and those hormones, which, especially over a long period of time of being in fear or depressed or sad or angry, those are all kind of the same emotions in a way that produce certain chemicals, puts our bodies in a state of dis-ease, and that's where you start getting sick. That's where you get dis-ease. You know, cancers, all those kinds of things are produced from those states of being for long periods of time. And I'm not a medical professional, you know, but this is just the things that I've come to my own conclusions on from the things that I've learned. But by facing that too, then we have more space for the chemicals of joy, you know, the emotions that produce the chemicals of joy, which are going to be like dopamine and maybe serotonin. I don't know, you know. And so those are more of a high vibrational, you know, chemical in the body, which is going to be more healing as opposed to destructive. Like another thing you were talking about was like when you're angry, um, you know, it's really because you want something and you can't have it, kind of thing. And I've been having even some of that experience, and even more if I really think back to the anger that I've had around certain things. But even recently around an ex-girlfriend of mine, you know, I made up this whole story about, you know, just through texting, you know, through texting. I made up this whole story, and it's just, I kept it to myself. I'm processing it for myself. But I was able to see that, it was just a story, and that story was making me feel shitty and sad and kind of depressed, um, and then, but because I became aware that, I'm angry at this person, that who knows that they were doing any of the things that my mind made up. Um, um, I was able to rethink that, like that, it doesn't even matter if that's what she's doing, or that, whatever. I can now, when that comes up again, I can realize, like, mind, relax, you're blowing this out of context. There's no facts or anything supporting your theory. Now refocus on yourself and keep moving forward. And the other place seems to be the thing that holds me back the most, is by focusing on someone else that really hasn't even created that reality for me. I created it for myself.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. So what are some of the ways that you cultivate your personal power? I know, we're talking about, like, taking moments of silence or whatever to analyze the thoughts.
Yeah, definitely taking that moment. We talk about this a lot in the Course in Miracles too, about like just taking that moment to breathe. And as a friend said the other day, and he's like, sometimes I'm worried if I do that, then I'll be questioning. He's like, I feel like I just go do, and then it's just like, well, stopping and like wondering why you just go do is actually really important, because like you we have these I know minds that believe that what we're doing is the right thing, or the better way of doing things, or we were called to do that somehow, or whatever. But at the same time, do you know which voice you're listening to? Are you in love? Are you in joy? You would know you were listening to that voice that was what's bringing you to your next step. But if you're, in fear for something, and you go and run and do it, you might be actually doing something that's not of really a benefit to either parties, even though like it seems like you're helping. What I've been doing, what was the question? Cultivating.
Yeah, how do you cultivate your power? Discover it.
So yeah, taking those moments and analyzing how I feel, because our our bodies are basically our subconscious mind, and so our minds will be saying something, and then our bodies are feeling a way, and then sometimes, especially for myself, I speak for myself, is that sometimes I feel like somebody asks me something or whatever, I might feel pressure to give an answer right away rather than taking the time to think about it, and then end up having resentment towards doing something I agreed to do, or whatever that looks like, which isn't that person's fault. That's me. Like, why do I feel like I have to give an answer right away? So taking those times, so I'll sit, you know, or stand, or just in that moment, like, am I holding tightness in my body? Like, do I feel conflicted about something? And then, like, what is the most loving thing in this moment? What is mine to do? And sometimes it'll just roll off, like, um, like maybe it was late, and you're just like, hey, let's, you want to go, we don't drink, but if we did, you want to go to the bar and hang out? And I'm like, I know I'd have fun if I went, and blah blah blah. But if I stopped and I like really like checked in, and then I might be like, you know what, I'm actually kind of tired. I need some time to myself or whatever. But like an old version of me might be like, well, I don't want to let Shane down. You know, he's my buddy. I know I'll have fun with him. And then we end up staying up late, and then I end up kind of being resentful, not necessarily to you, but the fact that I stayed up late because I worked in the morning or something, you know. But it's just like just taking those moments, like, and I used to do that a lot when I was, you know, in my earlier drinking years, early 20s and things like that, where basically it's like that fear of missing out. Like you feel like you're not gonna, in a way, it's that separation of joy. Like I'm not gonna experience that joy unless I go out with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm waking up super early the next day to go to work. I'm hungover, and then I go and do it again the next night. Like, but it's just this constant wheel of like, if I keep this momentum going of uh, having this interaction, I'll remain happy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it seemed like that, you know. I was happy, but it wasn't serving me either. Like, I would be tired, you know. But I would end up there'd be some days that I would just waste because I would need rest, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And and then it's just it pushes other things to the wayside, like, you know, maintaining my space. You know, it's really about creating boundaries in a way. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're all one, but at the same time, like you have a presence here, you have your space, like you get to choose who you get to spend your space with,
Mm-hmm.
and you want that to be cultivated with good people. And I'm learning that more and more now. Like some people have started to like drift out of my life, and I would be sad, except for I know that I still have love for that person, but I also can recognize that when I spend time sometimes with these people, it's almost like a placeholder for this this journey that I am moving on eventually, but it's just like it's stagnant, you know. And um and it's okay that I'm moving and creating new friendships and moving in another direction, because that's really what my soul is yearning for.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, just meeting myself where I'm at and giving myself the space to understand that self and love it. And I think that that's also shown me more of what value I bring to other people. You know what, you know, because I've I've seen things before where I kind of realize that I am bringing value to some people, but I don't feel much value from them. And it's kind of like, am I wasting my energy
Mm-hmm.
where I could be actually helping something grow, like helping a community come together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think for me, personal power, the way that I've cultivated it is definitely through a lot of time. It's taken a lot of time. I don't think it needs to take a bunch of time. I think that it could happen probably instantaneously, you know, and I think the more that I tune into it, I can tune into it instantaneously more and more now. So it doesn't have to take a long time. You don't have to toil. It doesn't have to be hard to get to that point. I think we make it harder on ourselves than it needs to be. But I think in order for it to be that easier, ease and grace, there has to be the belief that it can be that, and then, you know, two, the, you know, constantly working on the thoughts around that, acknowledging the thoughts that are preventing that space from being created, um, and then also really like taking action on it. You know, because it's almost like this spiritual online community. It's almost like, you know, just meditate and the things will come to you. or just sit around in your space, and checks will come in the mail, or that partner will just show up because you've manifested her right here, or him, or whatever. But I think there's a difference too. I think that part is also like super necessary before the action comes, but there still has to be the action, like the ability to sit with your thoughts, sit with your feelings, look yourself in the mirror, and have a conversation with yourself, and deep gratitude and love, and the practice of that, continuously doing that, showing yourself. It's like your outward world will reflect back to you the way that the way that you're believing, or the way that you're thinking. And so if your life isn't necessarily the way that you want it to be, it's as a result of the beliefs and thoughts that you have. And so, like, I'm noticing more for myself that the more that I'm believing in myself, the bigger the community gets, the stronger it gets, the more opportunities I have to show my authenticity, to face fears that I thought I had, and to overcome them pretty quickly. I had an experience this weekend. We went to a Parangi concert, which is amazing. If you haven't seen Parangi live, I would definitely go. One of a kind of experience. But we were doing like this breath work kind of meditation as he's coming to a closure for the ceremony that he put on, which is essentially what it was. And I'm holding myself and thinking about how powerful I really am, like, being able to dance around other people and have conversations and look people in the eyes and just not care, and how that's going to reflect in other areas of my life, and just being proud of that. And just while I'm in that space, one of my friends, Ashi, she was standing right there next to me, and she gave me a hug and did this affirmation for me, kind of thing, and just kind of recognizing how she sees me as a powerful light leader, somebody that's really coming into myself. And she doesn't really know me. I mean, I've done a little bit of marketing stuff for her, but people notice your aura and your energy emits, and people will gravitate towards that and notice it. And for me, it was like because I had just been in that experience of recognizing that for myself, and then instantaneously got that message, what I feel was from God, through another person, which is really all it is. She's me, I'm her, we're all one. And so she was able to communicate that and reflect that back to me instantaneously. And I think the more that we focus on cultivating our power and believing in ourselves, we're going to see those manifestations a lot quicker. I think the time in between is not, it's just less of a belief. And because mine is getting stronger, things are manifesting quicker and quicker and quicker.
Yeah, that's yes, that's absolutely true.
Because got it.
Yes, finally.
Man, I'm so smart.
You are smart.
Yeah.
You're like, I've been telling you this whole time.
Yeah. You clearly haven't been paying attention.
Oh, you knew that, because I come over to you and you're like, okay, I need your computer brain. How much? Yeah, the Course in Miracles says that it doesn't actually have to take time at all, and it doesn't have to be hard. It's just that we make it that way, and it's based off of our beliefs. And so it's like questioning your beliefs is a really powerful practice. Like, and you can question everything about your life. Like, a recent subject of conversation that I've had with a couple of people was monogamy. And it's just like, monogamy is a belief. You can do or have anything you want. And honestly, like, attraction isn't, I mean, the world of form is all an illusion. Whatever you're attracted to isn't even really a boy or a girl or a cheesecake, or like it's just there, it's an energy. Like you're attracting these things into your life. So it's like how do we label ourselves? Like, I'm this way, this is what I like, and then it's just like, do you know how much you've just limited yourself? Like,
Mhm.
like what's bringing your joy into your life? Like, the more joy you feel, the more joy comes into your life. And I had an amazing experience at Parangi,
Parongi.
Parangi,
Porongi.
Parangi.
Yeah.
I know he taught us that, and then it's Belize.
Belize.
Um, but yeah, I remember I was dancing and I was stretching, and every once in a while I'd get this thought of like, oh, I forget I'm in a room full of people. People are probably looking at me weird, and then I was like, no, everybody here is a weirdo. So
Mhm.
that makes me more comfortable about it. But then I would giggle at myself, and then and I'm dancing, and and then at some point where I'm just like in the flow of it, and I'm moving my body and dancing my hands around, and all kinds of weird um, movements, different movements, I guess. Um, and I look around the room and I just see people just like doing the same thing, and
Mhm.
and it's so cool to watch, because like I saw these two guys that they were it wasn't like a dance battle, because they were smiling, but like they're like and they're like smiling at each other, and then the other guy's like boom 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 boom, and I was
Mhm.
just like, yeah, guys, get it, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I just loved that. It was an experience that how they came in and made a circle, was really had you like ground and root down and be like, we're here to support each other. Like, this is a container of love. Like, you're releasing judgments, and all the judgments that you have are really about yourself. It's not about somebody else. And just the more you're just releasing that inner conflict, that struggle, that like we feel like life, and that's a belief, like and it's a very popular and fundamental religions, that we have to suffer to be saved, or we have to suffer to have joy, and none of that's true. You do not have to suffer for anything, because love is all there is. So what would you suffer through to experience the all of what there is?
Mhm.
There is nothing to suffer through. It's all we're suffering is beliefs that we're holding on to and that we've created. You know, you want to be, um, you want to be a big star. You want to do something great. You have just as much right as everybody else does. It doesn't matter where you were born, what color your skin is, what gender, nationality, sexual orientation. Like, none of these things matter. But the world has us so in a separated mind that one thing is right versus another thing.
Mhm.
And separation doesn't really exist. That's all an illusion. We're here to love each other.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the last thing that I'll say on that note is, um, like, you said that the reason that we might be, insecure speaking on stage or whatever, dancing, whatever, um, is because we're judging ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, and I think there's also another piece that I've found for myself is that it's because also I'm also judging other people, you know.
Mhm.
And it's very subtle. It's like, oh, that's a weird shirt, or oh, those are, she's got a booger in her nose, or
Mhm.
like, like I don't know, just like those subtle things, they add up, and it's not. I'm a very nice person, and I can kind of like just let that pass
Mhm.
and realize it, and then be like, okay, what the fuck, why am I thinking like that? But because I'm doing that, I'm like, oh, those people are doing the same thing that
Mhm.
I do
Yeah.
to them, um, and it's gotten better. But because of that realization, I'm like, I can stop judging them and then not be judged because I'm not judging anyone else.
Yeah. Because judgment of others is judgment of self. Because like if you,
Yeah.
because basically you're just saying, if I was that person, I wouldn't be wearing that hairstyle or that
Yeah.
shirt, or you know, and it's just like, but you are that other person,
Yeah.
you know, and they're doing their thing.
Why don't they have a bald head and a beard and you know,
and all these muscles,
hairy chest? Exactly. They need to all be like me. So, but yeah, man, embrace that power. I think, you know, just practice, time, cultivating that belief is where it's at, and then taking action, stepping into the face of fear, and allowing yourself to do that, you know, for something that you want to go after. Just get on the other side of that to realize how insignificant it really is in terms of the fear. And you know, it's just like a matter of time before you feel the power, and then once you feel the power, then you can cultivate it more and more, and then it, you know, it's on command.
Yeah.
On demand.
There's zero competition to be yourself.
That's right.
Because what is it? Mark Twain said is like, be yourself, everybody else is taken.
Yeah.
Like if I was trying to be you, like that would be, well, one, it'd be insanity, but two, like I could never be you.
Yeah.
Like our individuated expressions are on purpose. You know, who we uniquely are is the most important thing. Our own happiness, being who we are, that's how we communicate to each other. Like, I mean, gosh, if everybody was like me, it'd be a boring conversation.
Yeah.
They're like, I already know what you're thinking.
Yeah. Done that.
They're like, oh, did you? Yeah, we have the same morning routine. I know you.
Yeah, it'd be nothing to talk about. So, but yeah, that concludes today's episode. If you liked it, make sure to like this video, subscribe, leave a comment with something that you found valuable. You know, where are you at in the process of cultivating your power, and are there ways that we can support you in that? Is there something that you'd like us to discuss on another podcast episode? We're trying to get to the point where we do this weekly or something like that, bi-weekly. We'll kind of figure it out as we go. And that's the process of this podcast's authenticity. You know, just kind of letting it unfold naturally and spontaneously, just like the rest of our lives. So thanks for tuning in. We enjoyed making this for you, and we hope you enjoyed it as well. Much
Thank you.
love.
Namaste.
Peace. Aho.
Aho.
All those things.
House.
House. House.
House. House.